Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Sana Maqbool with you at PTV WORLD. In today's show, we will be talking about two important stories with reference to what is going on in India. This is, of course, something that we've also discussed at length before, but something that continues to affect the lives of a Muslim population within India and other minorities as well. With the reference to the BJP and their Hindutva ideology, life has become increasingly difficult for Muslims and minorities in India. And not just the people of India that are suffering, it's also the sanctity of a religion that is being targeted, religious places that is being targeted, and we've seen that in the past as well in the case of the Babri mosque. And now we've seen the extension of that, which is being done elsewhere also in various other parts of India. In a Dawn article we've titled Ayodhya's Ghosts, we've seen that there have been a number of such incidents where we've seen similar incidents as in the past that have targeted Muslim mosques, holy places, and have called out the people in the desecration of these places, and then of course the sanctity that is being violated of these religious places and the religious freedoms of the people. This of course is also an attempt to hurt the Muslim sentiment within India, to hurt the religious freedoms of the Muslim population within India, and of course to marginalize the community and not allow their expression, their religious freedoms, and for them to be able to coexist peacefully within India, which of course points us to the larger problem of how to deal with this issue. This is going to be the focus of our first segment in the show today. Similarly, we also know that it's not just the Muslim population within India that is being targeted. Anybody who raises their voice against the BJP, the Hindutva ideology, or any sort of government laws or any sort of protest that is not in line with the BJP government and its agenda is the target of state institutions. We've also seen that previously as well. Anybody ranging from actors, from comedians, from people who are just vocal about what is going on within India, people who've been writing books, people who've come out and talked about these issues on any platform is being targeted. And unfortunately, in a similar incident, we also know that the Indian singer and politician Sidhu Mossewala was gunned down in Mansa district, and this has happened just a day after his security was also removed, which was among about the security of more than 400 VIPs whose security has been removed within India. This also points to the fact that this was somebody who was raising his voice against the Modi regime, who was raising his voice in terms of the farmers' protests and other such reforms and ideologies as well that the BJP seems to be putting forward. But the fact that any sort of dissent or any voice which is not something that is digestible for the Modi regime is being targeted and they're being gunned down, which is of course a larger problem within India, our focus of the second segment of the show today. So these are the two issues we'll be focusing on today. As always, I've been joined in the studio by Farrukh, Pitafi and Raja Faisal. And for our first segment, we've been joined online by Dr. Hamid Khan, who's a senior analyst, and we've also been joined by Samit Peer, who's an Indian political analyst. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being a part of the show today. I'll start with you, Dr. Hamid. When we look at the issue of what is going on in terms of the religious places and the kind of targeting and discrimination that is happening in India, this is not something new for us. We've seen that in the past as well. We've seen it quite rampant in different areas of India. What happened back with regards to the Babri mosque and now what's happening in different places of worship is indeed condemnable and unfortunate. But again, it impacts perhaps the larger areas of life of the Muslim population and the minorities. Their ability to be able to express themselves, to be able to exercise their religious freedoms is being curtailed, and they're being turned into a marginalized community. Irrespective of the kind of sentiment that this hurts, the life, the protection of a citizen and their ability to be able to function as free individuals is being curtailed within India. What needs to be done about it?
Thank you very much, Sana. I mean, you rightly said in the beginning as well. I would say that it is a very cunningly planned agenda by this fascist BJP government to marginalize the Muslims, particularly across the India. And this is why they are targeting the most important, factor of our religion, and that is praying namaz, salat. And that is the thing which we have to offer in the mosque. And they have targeted our mosque within last 7 years continuously. And we have seen that the Indian courts have become kangaroo courts in front of fascist Modi regime, and their decisions of the courts have been criticized across the world. Human rights organizations have questioned the decisions, whether it was the decision against of the Karnataka High Court about the hijab ban, or whether it was the decision of Delhi court about the 370A and 35A in Kashmir, and whether it was a decision against the human rights report of Amnesty International, and court did not even unseize the funds of Amnesty International. So, the problem gets very serious when a state policy has become to marginalize a certain minority. On top of it, when the state, other institution, and that is, I would say, the judiciary have become tool for the Indian government, and they are helping the Indian government to implement the marginalization of the Muslims. And this about the mask thing, I would like to remind you that in last 4 6 months they have pointed out over 800 mosques across India where BJP goons are and RSS goons are claiming that they should be turned into, temples, or they have some kind of association of their gods or something. This is against all the basic human rights. This is against the human laws as well. And if you look into the situation, it is gonna get worse. Can you imagine that what they are trying to do with Taj Mahal? They are trying to, fabricate the history about the Taj Mahal. They are trying to manipulate the history of Abbot Qutbuddin, Abbot minarets of that, and then they are trying to play around with the whether a Babri Masjid, or whether it's the mosque in Ayodhya, and whether it's the mosque in Lucknow, or whether there are mosques in UP. So point is
Absolutely.
this, that if India will carry out like this, it will not cause nothing but unrest in the country, and the Muslims have to come together against this fascist
All
Indian
right.
Modi regime.
All right, Mr. Samit Peer, what avenue do you think there exists for the Muslim population to be able to explore? As Dr. Hamid was talking about the courts, there's of course a lot of incidents where we haven't really seen justice prevail. Do you think that the courts can be somewhere where such incidents can be taken, where we can expect that perhaps these violations will be registered and there will be something done about it?
Well, Sanaji, thank you very much for having me on your show. Ma'am, I'll place my arguments on the logic and the facts. I'm not going to bring in my perceptions or my thought process into it. First of all, India is a secular country, and by constitution is a secular country. Everybody, Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Isai, has one vote. If you can name any one rights which I as a Hindu am and as my Muslim brother doesn't have, that doesn't exist. Point number two, there are more Muslims which live in India than Pakistan itself. Point number three, in 10 years will be the highest Muslim population in the world. Today it's Indonesia. Point number four, Babri Masjid case, if you look at it, it was 135 years into court. So before India and Pakistan were even born. It is the world's most elaborated legal proceeding. And finally, the court of law from High Court, from Supreme Court to Sessions Court, then it was decided on the basis of evidence and the title to the suit. The people who docked the evidence of the ASI, Archaeological Survey of India, was a Muslim. The judges in all the courts were Muslims also. So there is no way ordinance was brought in. There was no way, courts were manipulated. Though the present government had the power to bring in an audience and turn the law, but that was not done. The rule of the law was forward. If you look at today the number of IAS officers, if you look at the IPS officers, if you look at the Muslim representation in the walks of life corporate, where do you see such kind of a Muslim representation? If you look at the development index of a Muslim in India vis-a-vis Pakistan, you take any 10 economical parameters, you will not find a difference. Indian Muslims are doing much better. And but let me tell you about our mosques. There are 7 lakh mosques which are in India right now. And I don't know, with due respect to my four panelists, I don't know any 800 mosques which have been changed over and things like that have been done. There's an act of 1991 in place. With that act in place, no place of worship can be changed. So there is not a list like that. If you can give me even an 8 or 10, I'll accept that something has happened. Nothing like that has happened. The court of law is equal for all,
Right.
and even what
Mr.
is happening.
Peer, can I ask you one thing?
I would
You
like
said
to
that
reply.
Ayodhya case was most documented and most processed one. Let me ask you, why is it that the judge who was at that time Chief Justice, he was actually made a senator, one. Secondly, why is it that the whole process was such that people who actually demolished the mosque were allowed to actually walk free?
Okay, I'll answer two of the questions. First, you said about the judge. The Indian system, the honorable judges are chosen by a consortium of judges, which is given as a recommendation to the government. So government doesn't choose the judges. That's point number one. The judges choose the judges. It's a consortium. Point number two, the judges in the Sessions Court, in the High Court, in the Supreme Court had appropriate Muslim representation in that. And the person who did the ASI survey, who did the digging and who found the evidence and who submitted the report, yes, there was a temple there. The gentleman is a Muslim guy. His name is Mr. Khan. So, casting aspersions on the Indian judiciary and all doesn't work.
No,
sir.
no,
It's
hang on. I understand about the consortium and I understand how the judges are appointed. But are you telling me that the then Chief Justice, who was actually being blackmailed because of sexual harassment case, was not later given an inducement and he was not made a senator?
To best of my knowledge, there was no sexual harassment case of in any way whatsoever. So there are a lot of judges. Look at Mr. Kapil. He's been a judge. Look at a lot of people who they are from the legal fraternity. They have been law ministers. They have been promoted to various posts, and some of them have fought elections and won. Recently, Mr. Sibal is being nominated by Samajwadi Party to the Rajya Sabha. So there are presidencies which are like that. So there was no exception which was done for that. But what about the host of Muslim judges, Muslim officers, and Muslim people who were involved in each and every stage of the process? It was not a Hindu-driven or a Christian-driven process. People from all walks of life were there, because we are, at the end of the day, are a secular country. There is no way a faith or a religion can proceed over the other in this land.
Mr. Samit, can you actually say that with confidence and with absolute surety that India is indeed a secular country? Because there have been a lot of incidents which prove otherwise that continue to happen even today, and perhaps even as we speak. There have been countless incidents, not just with Muslims, perhaps with other minorities as well, which quite frankly show the opposite of what a secular state needs to be.
Dana, can I say something?
I'll answer that.
Yes, Dr. Hamid, I'll come to you.
First of all, if you look at by mathematically, if you look at numbers, if you can give me 5, 10 instances, I can narrate to you each and everything with a logic and explanation and with the data which is available in the open form for anybody to check, validate and do. I am not giving you my thought process. Like 135 years in court is a time-tested fact which you can verify. Biggest
Sir, numbers and logic is not the problem. It is the denial that is a problem.
Absolutely.
You keep on denying certain facts which are quite visible to the eye. I mean, now they are saying that Taj Mahal was actually Taju Mahal's place and it was taken over. And now they are going after Ajmer as well. So what exactly is there to actually doubt now?
Is it secularism?
Okay, I'll answer that. For Taj Mahal, the ASI has come up with a report and said, look, there is nothing in the Taj Mahal, so that case rests there. Anybody can ask for anything as long as the government of the country and the judiciary does not support that. Anybody can make a claim. It's a free democratic country. How can I stop anybody from making a claim? But has government said that? Has the honorable court said that? No, they have not said that. So we cannot stop people.
All right, I'll come to that. I have something more to explore on that as well.
Yeah.
But let's just hear from Dr. Hamid before you ask something, Faisal. Yes, Dr.
Yeah, I
Hamid.
just want to say something. Yes, please. Thank you very much, Sumit. I appreciate your, whatever you said. I think you was, whether you are lacking with some dead facts and figure. When Pakistan was created, when India was created, there was 30% share of the Muslims in the Indian government job, which has reduced to less than 2% in 75 years. How can you justify that Muslims are getting equal rights there? Then let me tell you, the education level of the Muslims at the time of the partition was over 70%, which has reduced to 14% right now. Then the freedom of speech for the Muslims at the time of partition, when Abul Kalam Azad was the part of your cabinet, when you have sane Muslims and sane Hindus representing the India, that has entirely changed since Modi have come into power. How can you justify the RSS ideology of changing the secular constitution of India into a Hindu fascist constitution? Do you know that the in next Modi election, BJP is contesting the election on the basis of changing the constitution from secular constitution to a Hindu ideology constitution?
Let
One
me.
more thing. I mean, you just admitted that there are people saying about the Taj Mahal. Can you say right now that if there will be any further claim or cases calling Taj Mahal as a Taj Mahal, would you talk against about it? No, you will be kept quiet, because that is the problem, that when there is a fascist government, there are limitations what you can say about the government or their steps. Similarly, as Mr. Pitafi has given you the reference that the last Chief Justice has been appointed and facilitated because he gave the decision of the Ayodhya Mosque in favor of the BJP without even convicting any of the BJP goons at that time. Lastly, if you talk about the freedom of speech, yes, there is freedom of speech for the people who are calling for the genocides of the Muslims. Yes, there is freedom of speech for the people who are lynching the Muslims. Yes, there is freedom of the speech who are talking against the Khalistan movement. Yes, there is freedom of speech who was killing and who was glorifying the killing of
Right, absolutely.
Sidhu Mossewala
Sumit,
yesterday. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
if this is the
point well taken.
situation,
Point
I'm
well
very
well
sorry,
taken.
India is heading
Sumit,
towards the dark future.
Can I answer?
yeah, Sumit, I'm coming towards you. Sumit, you have highlighted the points, and of course they were well phrased and well rehearsed, and it was all fine. This is what we want to know about India, and this is how we want to see India. A secular India, not an
It is.
India where all of the Muslims, all of the Sikhs, all of the Christians, they are subjected to tyranny at the hands of RSS and BJP goons. I'm not saying is the world saying it. If you don't go through the world media, if you don't go through the Western media especially, then I think you're just living in a fool's paradise, I must say. Why I say this? Because you ignored the fact that Gujarat riots took place. You ignored the fact that Makki Masjid was bombed. You ignored the fact that Samjhota Express was conducted. You ignored the fact that Babri Masjid was in daylight it was demolished. You ignore the fact that very recently Muslim shops were targeted, and there were footages coming from India where one shop was of a Muslim, the other shop was of a Hindu. There was nothing happened to Hindu's shop, whereas the Muslim shop was vandalized, was torched. Everything is happening. And if we take the example of Punjab, of course everyone knows what happened in Golden Temple and what happened after that. More than 2,000 Sikhs, they were murdered in daylight. This is what I'm talking about, Punjab. And right now, of course, what we saw last year, the kind of torture they went through, the farmers went through, the world knows about it. And very recently, there was a hijab case crisis as well. It went through your eyes as well. But of course, you are putting shadows on it because you don't want the world to see it. And I think if you are being, non-biased, then you should be highlighting them as well. In today's India, it's not secularism. It is Hindutva ideology that is persisting. And if you talk about the institutions and the number of Muslims that are in them institutions, forget about the Muslims. In coming times, institutions like Indian Army, institutions like police, they will not be seeing any big offices held by Sikhs even, because they are not serving the purpose of Hindutva. And whoever serves the purpose of Hindutva ideology, that's what you want.
And Faisal,
Yes,
they
sir.
don't consider Hindus as Muslims or Sikhs as loyal to the country, despite of living there for 75 years. Still, Sikhs and Christians and Hindus, they have to prove their
Right.
loyalty.
Exactly.
to the
Right,
Indians.
Mr. Hamid, let's hear it from Mr. Samit as well. Yes.
there have been an array of questions. It was around 10, 12. I'll try to answer each of them. I might miss something. If I miss something, kindly do let me know. The first and the most important thing is it is not a race argument. I don't do a race because I'm not going to know what you're going to ask me. Point number one, if you talk of the Indian army and the Muslims, have you heard of a General Atta Hussain? I have done numerous debates with him. He was a Lieutenant General, number 2 in the rank. I've personally done numerous debates with him.
In secular India, he was, sir.
Nanuddin Shah, I've done personally debates with him. Now, if you look at the Muslim population over the years has increased. If I look at the Hindu population in Pakistan, it has depleted. The places of worship of Muslims have increased in India, and if you look at Pakistan, it's the other way around. There were 606 in Lahore. Today, there are 4,000 as per US.
Sorry,
there was a time when
Peer Sahib, this argument, with due respect, this argument that if there is any persecution, why is their number increasing?
Right.
This is the most racist argument. I'm sorry. I mean, come on. Are you going to sue people for procreating?
I'm giving you the numbers. So that's point number one. Now, if you look at when President Donald Trump was here, he was asked a question about the Muslim population. He said if there are 240 million Muslims and growing, the question does not arise. So I need 10 rights which I as a Hindu have, as my fellow brother Muslim does not have. Well, those rights, if you look at the government schemes,
Sumit, maybe this is the threat that it is being seen by Hindutva ideology. That's why they want to conquer them.
No, it's not that. You see, I tell you, and there are no changes in any way whatsoever in the Indian Constitution. Let me assure you that
about the Constitution of India, it is about the acts of the fascist government. The Constitution,
exactly.
They are also violating the Constitution itself by Hindutva ideology.
Right, Mr. Samit, there's one thing to have something protected in the Constitution, but do you think that that protection is actually being extended to the people?
One second, please.
Yeah.
Now, if whatever you are saying is true, so with due respects, why does UAE and all the Muslim countries of the world have so much of trade with us? Why did the Saudi Arabs and UAE come and Kashmir?
No, excuse me. China has humongous trade with you. Does that mean you are a socialist country?
No,
that is in no way evidence of the fact that it doesn't exist any discrimination.
This argument belies logic. With due respect, I didn't want to actually stop you, Pisa, because I thought that when an enemy is actually hell-bent on destroying itself, you shouldn't interrupt it. But with due respect, when you look at what is happening in India, there must be, I mean, India has many aspects and it is thought to be quite a diverse country.
Exactly.
And I respect that it has great history and I would like to see it continue that way. But with due respect, since Narendra Modi and his party actually exploded on the scene, particularly BJP when it started with Ayodhya, and gradually it has been employing a shock and awe policy where they kill people, they create the spectre and then they get votes. And that has been increasing. That's why they have been actually changing the society and they continue to do it. You're honestly on this channel, sir, with due respect, you're telling me that Article 370 did not happen, that in India at this moment they are not cow vigilantes which are actually killing people with impunity, and then there is Pehlu Khan was his murderers were allowed to walk free out of nowhere because of nothing. You're telling me that saffronization is not a thing. Till the time you were speaking for secular India, I really respected you. Then suddenly you actually started spouting BJP's Hindutva arguments. With due respect. Yesterday, the BJP spokeswoman actually came on television and started abusing Holy Prophet of Islam. Sir, is that secularism?
No, let me answer. You have some pertinent points, let me answer. First of all, when you look at the secular fabric of India, it's an equal opportunity for all. People get what they are worth of. So if you look at the number of IAS officers which are Muslim, look at the people in the Indian police service which are Muslim. Look at the
Pehlu Khan also not an Indian?
Are not worth it.
Look at the corporate. Now, point number 2. Nobody is killing Muslims in any way. Let me tell you, if you look at the NCB, National Crime Bureau report, there are more Hindus which have died of lynching than the Muslim. This is not what I'm claiming or saying. This is the national
scheduled caste Hindus.
Pehlu Khan was unfortunate.
And who is writing those reports?
Exactly.
It is the same people actually installed by BJP who are writing those reports. Now you are going to continue to quote one report by BJP and the other.
And it's a horrific justification of lynching.
What
No,
about the
you
report
tell
of
me,
Amnesty
if you have
International?
240
What about the
million
reports of
Muslims,
Human Watch?
is there a possible you can suppress 240 million Muslims? By which way, which tactic?
That's what you are trying. It is not possible.
Mr. Samit Mir, do you honestly believe that there is no
I say the
suppression
same.
of Muslims that currently exist in India, that a Muslim in India is actually enjoying all the freedoms that any other, that a person of any other religion is enjoying, that a Hindu is enjoying in
Citizen
India? Do you
active,
honestly believe that a Muslim citizen in India is treated equally?
And speaking of suppression,
With
before
all the
BJP came
constitutions
into
that come
power,
out,
Muslims used to be in the cabinet. Do you think now they are in the cabinet? Do you think that Kashmir is not being suppressed?
There is no discrimination. Look at any government policy of Ujjwala, Prajwala, name anything. There is not one discrimination.
What?
Give me a case, one case wherein a Muslim was
I'll-
discriminated. Because you are a Muslim, you will not have access to Ujjwala, you will not have access to Prajwala, you will not have access to a vaccine or a Ayushman Bharat. That
Yes.
doesn't
How
act.
will you-
By the way, in UP, 30 out of 30 lakh houses given, 64% of them are given to Muslims. Out in Jan Dhan Yojana, 64% of the people who have got
Samit,
the loans are
Again,
Muslims.
these are these.
Hamid,
I'll
Hamid
tell you-
wants to respond.
Just give me 1 minute.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just saying, what about the Citizen Amendment Bill? What a discriminating law it is that they only Muslims have been subjected to
I'll
a
answer that.
certain bill. It has never happened in the history. Why did the human rights organization said it is a discriminatory law? I'm not saying it. Pakistan is not saying it. Is the World Human Rights Organization have said. European Parliament have talked about it, that the laws like that are not even followed by the human rights, and it is against the human rights. Then how can you discriminate between a simple Kashmiri Muslim and a Muslim in the a Hindu in Kashmir? What have you done with the domicile system? What have you done with the daily rights? Everywhere it is a clear-cut discrimination. Whenever there is a report for the rights, our Muslims have been blamed. One, they have been victimized. Second, they have been blamed for the all the anarchy or everything. This is the worst kind of system, and it is what Hindutva ideology is driving into.
Right,
Hang on.
Samit.
A man was apprehended for pelting stones in Delhi, a Muslim man, and he was accused of pelting stones while he did not have both arms. I mean, this is the way justice is actually being carried out in India. And at this moment, are you telling me that there hasn't been any demolitions in the Muslim areas in Delhi? I mean, this is quite evident, sir. I respect what you are trying to do. I respect your patriotism, but with due respect, you don't have to qualify or justify Narendra Modi's India to actually be patriotic.
No, let me answer. Neither, you see, the point here is that, my four panelists earlier talked about the CA. You see, CA is only limited to the 6 countries around where the Hindu population, Sikhs and Christianities have gone down. You cannot dispute that. In Afghanistan, the Hindu population is 0.02%. In your country, it's 1.2%. 1,000 forced abductions are happening every year. This is the Pakistan Human Rights Commission. We know what happened in Ankanasa. We know what happened with the daughter. We know the Sindhi girl who was hanged. I'm not getting into that because I have a laundry list and all my data is here. I don't need to look through anywhere. I don't need to Google anything.
Samit,
So for
state
these
is not endorsing it. Our courts are taking care of it. Our courts are taking care
And
of it.
secondly, you're talking about CAA, but pray also talk about Assam, where NRC is actually being coupled with CAA. And there is a logic to it, sir, you know it, that you wanted to boot out all the Muslims in Assam and you wanted to keep the Hindus there.
Right,
No,
and
as
we're
a-
almost out of time. So, Mr. Samit, I'll take my last input from you also. And please also add to the fact that if you talk about it, the secular India existing, then of course it means that all voices are heard and every sort of opinion is welcome. And I know you started off with saying that you talk about facts and figures and not what you personally believe. But why don't you talk about that as well and tell us exactly what it is that you think is going wrong or okay in India? And also with reference to the Muslim population or the religious freedoms of any particular religion as well. Can you actually go out and say something easily against the Modi regime and the BJP and not face consequences?
Sana, if I can add, I just wanted to know, in Samit's India, secular India, can we expect in coming future, right now as we seeing that Hindutva ideology or RSS goons, they are coming up with the different ideas that behind every mosque there was a temple, so we need to demolish it and build a new temple. Would we be seeing For Golden Temple as well, maybe in coming future they'll demolish it and raise a Hindu temple there. Maybe there are so many churches because churches were built by British, and maybe they will be demolished and raise the.
They have.
All right, we're
hang on. Very quickly, they have these dog whistles. I mean, they say whenever they talk about churches, they say that they are actually land grabbers, right? And when you talk about Muslims, they keep on claiming. Now look at what happened in Gyan Vapi mosque. There, a fountain has suddenly become Shiv Lingam. I mean, this is how they keep on twisting and turning everything, right?
All right, yes, Samit.
Let me answer. First of all, in India, everybody has a freedom of expression. Where I can quantify with one factor. See how many Pakistanis are on national TV every day. 10, 20, 30 of them. It's live on air. They can say whatever they want. So if there's freedom of expression curtailed, you will not have 50 people from Pakistan.
Samit, they reduce our voices. We did not reduce your voice.
No, by the way, so that is point number one. Point number two,
they do not let us speak.
All the Islamic countries, if all the Christian countries, and if all countries in the world come here, there were 200 members from the European delegation who come here. If Saudis give the highest civilian award to the Prime Minister Modi, if UAE
because you're rich,
because you have big market.
Saudis don't know Islam.
This doesn't mean that you have. This doesn't mean that you have every right to do whatever you want against your minorities, Samit.
I'm telling you, sir, there are 7 lakh mosques here. 7 lakh ka number hai as we speak, and there are not even 7 which have been kind of brought down. And all.
Again. Thank you for all the numbers, Mr. Samit Preet. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Hamid Khan, for being a part of the show. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for.
Let us commend him for his heroic effort to defend the country.
Absolutely. We're going to be moving on to our second segment now, which is, of course, again, something that is with reference to what is going on in India, what goes on there in terms of discrimination. And, of course, it's very, very unfortunate that we have seen people being targeted within India. The fact that there is anybody who comes out there who speaks up against the BJP or the government is being targeted, and now we also know that the Indian singer and politician Sidhu Mossewala was gunned down, and it is indeed condemnable, and we're very, very sorry for the loss as well. We've all also loved his music as well, and we support his efforts in terms of the farmers' protests and for raising his voice against what was going wrong within India and against the BJP as well. And it's unfortunate that we have lost him and that there is no room perhaps for such voices in India. Farrukh, when we look at this particular situation and what we've just discussed as well, it seems, of course, that there is perhaps a decrease of any such space, and that we're perhaps going to be seeing more targeting of such sane of voices in the future as well. I'll talk more about this. Let's just hear a small clip from Sidhu Mossewala, and we'll be back.
तो दादा भी खेती करता रहा, मेरा प्यो भी खेती करता रहा, हुण मैं आप कर रहा एज अ कलाकार हो के कि कोई ये तो है नहीं भी कोई जा कोई आप दिखाने दे किसान है या कहने दे किसान है या दिखावे दे किसान मूहरे ला के मैं तुरूंगा, ठीक है। तो आप जिन्ने भी किसान भरा ने जिन्ने भी साडे पिंडों होणगे नाल दे पिंडां तो मेरे दोस्त मित्र होणगे असीं आप संघर्ष शामिल हो रहे हैं, ठीक है ना। तो जिन्ने मैनूं चाहण वाले ने मैं सारिआं नूं हत्थ जोड़ के बेनती करदा भी जिथे ਜਿਹੜੇ हजे तक नहीं आए ते ਉਹ घरों निकलो ते साडे नाल बैठो।
While we're sorry for the loss, and our heart goes out to his family and friends, we've also been joined for this segment by Professor Harjeshwar Pal Singh. Thank you very much, Professor, for joining us and being a part of the debate. Before we talk about what is going on in India and how people are targeted who are speaking up or raising their voice against the BJP and the Hindutva ideology, if you'd like to say a few words about Sidhu Mossewala, we'll come to that, and then we'll start off our discussion. I think we still haven't established our contact with professors. We'll come back to that as well. Farrukh, earlier I was talking about how the space for such voices keeps on decreasing, and it perhaps also makes it even more difficult for people who are raising their voices to continue doing so, because of course there's a price to pay. Everyone has their families and their lives as well, and this battle is becoming increasingly difficult to fight and even win. Do you think that such incidents are going to be part of this cycle where perhaps we're not going to be able to see anyone come out and speak about what's going on?
Right, Sana, that is a very good question. When you talk about India's history, if you look at India, there are three distinct colors that come out. One, India the good, India the bad, and India the ugly, right? And when you're talking about India's historical experience, it has been suffering throughout ages. That's why now one was thinking and hoping actually that, the time has come that it is going to shine. And this is the irony, this is the tragedy of the country, that right exactly at that time, they have got a kind of extremists who have taken over the country and they're destroying everything diverse in the country, right? When you talk about BJP, when you talk about Sangh Parivar, when you talk about RSS, they are primarily children of spite and hate, right? And malice. Their malice is so deep that even today, when they talk to Muslims, they talk about Mahmud of Ghazna. While we don't have any direct connection with Mahmud of Ghazna, and it was ages ago, centuries ago, right? Similarly, when you talk about today, they actually keep on taking down your number. They actually note it down, and when they get the time, they just eliminate you. Look at how effectively they went about this murder, right? And you'll understand what happened. They have their B team that is now governing in Delhi, right? And gradually they are also ruling Punjab as well. And what they have done is they have withdrawn security detail from most of the prominent opposition people.
Right.
And one day it happens, withdrawal, and the next day this guy is shot down.
Yeah.
And this person actually had protested along with other farmers. So it is quite clear that it was a product of malice. And they will continue, they will keep on destroying India.
Right. Let us also welcome in the discussion Professor Harjeshwar Pal Singh, who's joined us online. Thank you very much, Professor, for being a part of the show. We're, of course, talking about the politician and the singer Sidhu Mossewala, who was gunned down. And it's indeed a tragic incident. It's quite representative of so many incidents that have been going out there. Before we talk more about what needs to be done with this regard, if there's anything you'd like to say about Sidhu Mossewala and this particular incident, please go ahead.
Sana, it has been a very somber incident all over Punjab. There is a pall of gloom that has descended on Punjab with the death of one of the biggest Punjabi cultural symbols, that is Sidhu Mossewala, who had a big fan following all over the world, wherever Punjabis or even non-Punjabis they were residing. So it came as a shock when it happened yesterday. And what was especially galling was that his security had just been removed one day before, and it had been publicized through all prominent social media and different newspapers and other media outlets. And for that, this one of the greatest Punjabi icons, he is now no more with us. So it is a very sorry and a very somber state at the moment in Punjab. His funeral is just about taking place, and there is a lot of grief and lots of people. They have assembled there, people from all over Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, and even from far off places. Youngsters, they are coming to pay their last respects to Sidhu Mossewala.
Right, and we're also very sorry for your loss, and please do accept our condolences.
Yeah, Professor Harjeshwar, what would you say about this fact that there are different gangs within Indian Punjab, like this Goldie Brar gang, and we have been hearing about so many gangs that are active within different cities of Punjab, which are being used, and it is speculated that they are being used by certain institutions to victimize whoever they want to be victimized. Can you agree with this, that of course someone like Sidhu Mossewala, who was known for being very blunt when it comes to farmers' protest, he joined it, he was leading it, and he later on joined Congress party, and then of course he's someone who's considered as very anti-Modi. And can we say that there could be a hand of someone sitting in the establishment to simply neutralize him?
I think it would be too early to speculate on what caused this murder. No doubt, Sidhu Mossewala, he had played a very prominent role during the farmers' agitation, and he had also come out with his songs. But to call him a leader of that movement, I think would be a bit of an overstatement. As far as Sidhu is concerned, he joined Congress and he fought elections from Mansa, which unfortunately he could not win. There was extortion calls to him because of this gangster rivalry which was taking place in Punjab, and since many of these singers, they are considered to be easy targets for gangsters. So gangsters, they were asking for money for them, out of them. Sidhu, according to reports and sources, different type of sources or reports that are coming out, he refused to give that money, and probably that was one of the reasons why the gangsters were after it. If whether there is some hanky-panking or some establishment which is behind it, I think it would be very difficult to speculate on that at the moment.
Professor, it is important to actually underscore the facts of the matter as well, as you have pointed out, but there is some very eerie coincidence. For example, if you remember, during the farmers' protest, there was another character who was accused of actually climbing up the Red Fort and hoisting a flag there, Deep Sidhu. He also perished in a very strange kind of car accident. Now, amazingly, while there might be other factors attributed to various deaths, one keeps on seeing that the enemies or the challengers of the ruling party and ruling order, they keep on dying in mysterious circumstances. You don't see any coincidence there? You don't see any connection possible?
Yeah, I'm not ruling that out. I am saying that it could be possible and it could not be. Thing is that I think as far as the two ideologies of the two persons are concerned, as far as Deep Sidhu is concerned, the person who hoisted that flag, he was of a different bent of mind. He was more of a radical Sikh. While Sidhu Mossewala, he was more of a mainstream sort of a politician. So ideologically, they were very different, and even the circumstances of their deaths are different. He died in an accident, while Sidhu Mossewala, he was killed in the daylight. So how to join these two things, whether it is a coincidence or it is a conspiracy, I think it would be too premature to
Professor Singh, are you accepting this, that of course Deep Singh was more inclined towards the Khalistan movement, and he was being considered as someone who was considered as a voice of Khalistan? Can we say that his accident, it was a sort of very suspicious accident because it took place at 9 o'clock, and it was it was said that truck was standing there and he just smashed it from behind? How is it possible, sir?
And then there is a history also. If you remember the Disha, Ravi, she, just because she actually redistributed a toolkit, she had to go through hell during the farmers' protest. So there seems to be an element of malice also involved here, sir.
Again, I think if you look at Deep Sidhu, to call him, of course, as far as his political leanings were concerned, definitely they verged towards the Khalistan. He was almost over there. But to see him, it is a very big threat. And as a leader of Khalistan, I think would be a bit premature, because during his lifetime, he did not get much support from the people. In fact, the leader who wants Khalistan, he regularly takes part in elections, and he invariably loses badly. That is Simranjit Singh Mann. He is considered to be a leader of a person who is demanding Khalistan in Punjab.
Right.
To call Deep Sidhu as a very big leader, I think would
Sir,
be...
Can you also clarify that the flag that was hoisted, was it Khalistan's flag or was it Nishan Sahab actually?
Nishan Sahab.
It was just a Nishan Sahab. It was just propagated by the media at that time. They wanted to blunt that movement, and it was propagated that it was a Khalistan flag, but it was not. It was just a Nishan Sahib.
Yeah. Right. Professor, I'll come to you, Faisal. Professor, when we talk about the issue of Sidhu Mossewala as well, and the fact that we of course, have there's a lot of problems when we talk about justice system within India as well. And just in our previous segment, we were talking about whether or not the minorities in India are given the same kind of protection that is required. We also know that Sidhu Mossewala's father has demanded it from the Punjab Chief Minister that there is justice, that there is an objective investigation into the incident. But how hopeful are you that this is actually going to be the case, that there will be a free trial that is going to take place and a real investigation into what has really happened? Because of course there's a lot of other areas that we're talking about which may be a possibility.
And can you also reflect on the politics of Aam Aadmi Party which might have led to this? There seems to be some connection between BJP and Aam Aadmi Party's policies.
As far as Sidhu Moosewala's father, definitely the way all this has happened and the way his security has been taken away and it has been widely publicized. And also, if we have to see that he also stood against Aam Aadmi Party, and he also had recently come out with a song which was criticizing that party, for which almost the whole of the party had criticized them.
I think unfortunately we have lost our contact with a professor. But again, when we look at the situation, there is of course this important aspect of whether or not we'll be able to see justice. You want to add something, Faisal?
Yes, Sana, I just wanted to add, obviously since yesterday, I was getting calls and I was in touch with a few of the student leaders who are based in Canada and student leaders who are based in Britain. Of course, they associate themselves with the Khalistan movement. What I was getting from them is that not only Mossewala, but there are several other Punjabi singers, Punjabi actors who constantly, and especially those who associate with Khalistan movement and who are sympathizers of Khalistan movement. What he said was, what they were saying is, all of these, they are getting calls. Why? Because this is the modus operandi of today's Indian establishment, that this is how they want to move on. They want to cherry pick all of these, voices that are pro-Khalistan within India, and they want to, of course, neutralize them through these gangs, and these gangs are outsourced by Indian establishment.
All right.
Right. Very quickly, Sana, I just wanted to actually highlight one fact, that while our friend here, Faisal, might be friends with Khalistani movement people, my support to our Sikh brothers is not conditional to any of the political movements.
Exactly.
I think that they are ours. This is the only religion in the world that was born in the territories that now are part of Pakistan. So they are ours, right?
Absolutely.
And the way this murder took place, I think there are many questions that need answering. And why is it that Narendra Modi's opponents suddenly keep on dying all over the country, right? Particularly in a place like Punjab. And then what is the connection between Aam Aadmi Party's policies and BJP's policies? Because both keep on actually stamping on the minorities and the people who are opposed to the common agenda of these two parties. This is important.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Professor Harjeshwar Pal Singh, also for joining us and being a part of the debate. And beyond all religions, of course, there's also the aspect of humanity and the fact that the freedom of people to be able to say what they want, to express what they want is important, and violations of any kind are of course not welcome for anyone. And that is something that we want to be able to see in a real secular India, if that does exist at any point in time. Thank you very much for joining the debate. We'll see you tomorrow.